comes from a good wine. And making a good wine can only happen if the vines are properly cared for throughout the year. Proper care also requires that a vintner know when to harvest, so the grapes have just the right balance of sugar, acidity, and tannins. You will now learn about proper viticulture, knowing when to harvest, and how these two factors influence the overall quality of Pisco. Proper viticulture involves many elements, but I will focus on only a few in this lesson. First, a vintner must study the environment to choose the plants that are best suited for the vineyard. He or she should also choose the proper rootstock, which will allow the newly planted vines to adapt better to their new homes. Then the plants must be properly pruned. In Pisco-making regions, the vines are pruned in winter, typically in July or August, which gives them the time to complete their growth cycle and have ripe berries by March or April. Sometimes chemicals may be required to control unwanted pests or fungi. However, one must use them sparingly and under the supervision of a qualified engineer. Overuse of chemicals can kill beneficial soil microorganisms, among many other detrimental effects on the environment and plants. Proper viticulture also includes harvest. At PiscoLogía, we hand harvest our grapes. That allows us to pick the berries at their peak ripeness and select every piece of fruit that goes into our Pisco. Finally, crushing must be carried out with care. If you crush too hard, you extract bitterness from the seeds, which will end up in your Pisco. A light crushing is best, so this doesn't occur. A vintner must also decide when the time is right to harvest. The decision to pick grapes is made at the last minute, after many days of testing and waiting. There are many factors that help determine when it's time for harvest, but all viticulturists use a mix of science and intuition to make their decision. Achieving the right balance of sugar, acidity, and tannins during the ripening process of the grapes will result in a wine with great equilibrium. From a scientific perspective, the sugar and pH levels must be optimal before harvest. The yeast need the right amount of glucose to convert the juice into wine. Brix is a measurement of the sugar content of the grapes. Ideally, in the case of PiscoLogía, Natty aims to have Brix levels of 23 to 24 for red grapes and 22 to 23 Brix for white grapes. You also measure the acidity to know when the grapes are ready. As the fruit ripens and sugar levels increase, pH rises and acidity drops. We need to maintain certain levels of acidity so the wine is well-rounded. Natty strives for a pH of around 3.2 to 3.4. One must also consider the physiological changes of the vines. Natty checks the color and texture of the grapes, stems, and seeds. Grapes that are ripe will have bright, plump fruit. Stems and seeds will be brown. The seed should also be hard, but easily chewed. Finally, intuition comes into play throughout this whole process, but especially when tasting the grapes. When the grapes are at their peak, they will taste sweet, be slightly acidic, and the tannins will be notable. The aromas and flavors of each variety will also be easily distinguished. In summary, determining the ideal moment to harvest requires science and intuition. Taking all this into consideration and making a precise decision about when to pick grapes allows us to bring out the full qualities of our terroir and make the best quality wine, the wine we use to make Pisco. Now you can apply what you just learned in the activity for Lesson 14. Thank you.